Hi everyone, my name is Lynette Davis, the chief blogger over at asummermoon.com, and I am super excited to have my special guest here with me, Starr. I love that name. um, who is going to help me segue out my Be the Change series for this month. It has just been an amazing series, and I've had such amazing guests, and I couldn't be more happy to have start with here to conclude this series and rock it on out. So, Starr, um, we are going to just jump right in. So, by all means, you know, feel free, viewers.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much for having me here today. This is great. Be the change is something very dear to my heart, so I'm looking forward to chatting with it about it today.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so um, the first question that I typically ask, and you know what, before I go into that, can you give us a full introduction?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Starr Sheppard-Decker. I'm a law of attraction coach, and I own and operate the business Radical Revelations all by myself. And I've been licensed to see clients for about 5 years, and just the past year or so, I've really wanted to expand my business out from just my local spiritual community and move out into the world. My passion is supporting nonconformists, specifically spiritual nonconformists who really want to do something different and maybe are battling with that inner programming that's keeping them stuck. And so my passion is helping them identify what beliefs are keeping them from doing that awesome stuff that's ready to be birthed through them, and so that they can be free to do it because the world's ready.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's perfect way for us to go into the next question, or I should say the original question. So, what does it to you?
That's a really great question, because it's multifaceted. On one hand, it's really who you are in the day-to-day moments. How I am to my son, how I am to my spouse, how I am to myself. Am I treating everybody the way that I think everybody should be treated? And then, of course, in a bigger way, it's how we show up in the world. Um, I think in our culture we forget that we actually do affect the world around us. That we are connected, that we're not separate. And so to me, be the change is, what are you buying? What choices are you making? What thoughts are you thinking? What, passions do you have? And is that in alignment with a better world? Is that in alignment with the world that you want your grandchildren's grandchildren to have? And if it's not, no judgment, but how can you switch it? How can you make yourself more in alignment with really, let's say if you want your grandchildren's grandchildren to have a planet to live on, you might want to consider the consumer choices that you're making, and are those consumer choices actually going to add up to that, to maintaining our Earth, or are they devouring our Earth, and are we participating in that without questioning it? And so it's really, all the way from how I'm doing my work in the world, what I'm standing for, to the consumer choices that I'm making, all the way to, what I say to myself in the darkest moments of the night. All of those things, I think, are areas that we can be the change that we want to see in the world.
Absolutely. Oh, beautiful. So, you know what? You said something a little bit earlier about that you are basically in the business of trying to help people who are ready to go out and be amazing, feel comfortable and okay with doing that. So can we elaborate a little bit more on that? Can you tell me a little bit more about the work that you do? Because to me, that sounds like you are essentially helping to empower others to truly be the change that they want to be and see in the world.
Absolutely. I think that each one of us has something inside of us that's calling to be seen, that's calling to be heard, that's calling to be expressed. That's our unique thing. Some people might be passionate about the environment. Some people might be passionate about social justice. Some people might be passionate about racism. Some people might be passionate about, education. There's, as a friend of mine, Sharif Abdullah, says, the mess, this huge societal issue, is too big for any one person to have hold of. And so for me, it's about, I believe that each one of us if we get all that other crap out of the way, the habits, the patterns of behavior that aren't working for us, the listening to the mom in our head that isn't saying very good things anymore, if we can get all that stuff out of the way, I trust that the divine that's within us wants to participate in this uplifting of the world, that wants to participate in the empowering of us all, that wants to remind us of how powerful we are, and that we get to start it. We don't have to wait for a government to start it. We don't have to wait for a mom to start it. We don't have to wait for our boss to start it. That we can start with the everyday choices that we're making. And there's a lot of people that want to do a lot of amazing stuff that are really bogged down by self-judgment, by self-doubt, by the need to conform. I mean, we are herd beings. Our brain wants to be a part of the group. And so for those of us that are stepping outside, for those of us in a world that's saying the earth is flat, that are daring to say the world is round, it's going to be a little tough. And so my passion is supporting those people that really feel called to do something big, feel called to do something different, know what they're here to do, but those old habits, those old behaviors, those old thoughts are just keeping them hitting that wall over and over and over again. I want to help them break down that wall because their gift is important.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I know before we hopped on this call, we had exchanged a couple emails beforehand, and you told me a little bit about your work besides doing the coaching, that you also conduct workshops for a certain population, as well as, now I see art in your background, so I wasn't sure if that was you who did that, or I know that you're also musically inclined. So can you tell me a little bit more about that, who you service with those particular gifts?
Absolutely, yeah. I belong to a spiritual community, the Portland Center for Spiritual Living here in Portland, Oregon, and I've been a part of that community for about 12 years. And so through that community, I do classes and workshops. What I love about our spiritual community is that we don't get into the judgment, sin, hell conversation, and so we get a lot of people from all walks of life who feel comfortable there, and I love, love, love that. I also feel really passionate about the teen community. I homeschool my son. He's never been to public education. We could get another conversation about public education, but we won't do that today. But I will say that in Portland there's an amazingly large homeschooling and unschooling community that I get to plug into with my 10-year-old. And I have recently been offering some communication classes for homeschooled teens. I feel like I'm very in touch with my inner teen. I had a lot of teen drama and a lot of teen angst. I mean, everybody has teen angst. I had a lot of family stuff going on, and so I feel passionate in supporting teenagers. Sometimes it just takes one person to see them and to appreciate what they see for them to feel comfortable stepping up and stepping out. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I do in my local community that really feeds my heart, and I feel also gives back to the community as well. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you're right, we could definitely go on and on about the school systems and everything. I actually do not have any children, but I know that if I ever did, I don't really plan on it, but if I ever did, I would actually consider homeschooling personally. So I think that in and of itself is probably a whole other conversation, but I think that's also a big part of societal change movement. For those of us who feel stuck in having to spend a lot of money for private schooling or boarding school to offset public school, rather than doing those things that are more typical, to step out and create these communities where, because you said Portland has a community of people
Absolutely.
who are embracing the homeschooling. So I think that in and of itself is a shift. So I think that's awesome.
I agree. There's a lot of parents getting that, that their kids are precious and that their kids, aren't guinea pigs and aren't robots. And so it behooves us to have a different approach. And ironically, the approach that a lot of parents are taking is one that indigenous cultures took long, long, long before we had, public school, which is kids want to learn, and if you surround them with stuff that's interesting, they will learn it. You don't have to shove it down their throat. And so it's pretty amazing. And you find here in Portland a lot. It's kind of like a spectrum. You've got super recreation of school, homeschooling on one end of the spectrum, and then you've got what's called unschooling, which isn't not schooling, but it's trusting that kids will be attracted to what they want to learn, and there's a lot more freedom than in our society we would ever consider giving kids. And I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle, as far as that spectrum goes. But there's so much acceptance here that I can be in community with people in that full spectrum, and we all still get along, and we hang out with our kids, and the kids get to socialize in their own way, and it's pretty amazing. And I agree that that's absolutely part of societal change, is not plugging our kids into the mill, churning out new consumers and new workers and people that will just believe in authority, instead of following their heart.
Wow, awesome. So that brings me to my next question, because I hear all the passion in not only you, really at the underlining passion I hear is about people breaking out of the norm that holds us back from being a better society. So for what I'm hearing is I'm hearing that passion behind that. But what if, I should say, why should someone care about these kind of things? Why should they? What does that look like for them? What does giving back look like for them? Because as we're talking, and I've had my guests have come from different backgrounds and different ways that we're giving back, and the way we're communicating and the way you are expressing giving back is different, and to me it's still extremely concrete. So let's focus that answer around that concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think the giving back. Obviously, a lot of people immediately go to money, which of course is a part. Personally, I tithe to my spiritual community, and as far as my business goes. I think I mentioned this in our email. Not quite to that point as far as the business model goes monetarily, but with my time, my time is a gift, and it's very valuable, of course, and I'm not just going to be giving it to any old person that wants it. And yet, there's something in our hearts that when the opportunity to give and that it's right presents itself, it's like you can't not give it. And so part of my work is I'm involved in my spiritual community, and actually to become relicensed as a spiritual practitioner, as a law of attraction coach, I have to put in a number of volunteer hours every couple of years. I have to relicense and show both education hours to show that I'm doing my inner work, and service hours to show that I'm giving of service. And so it's funny that it's required, because every time that I've gotten relicensed, I haven't even had to add up my hours, because my minister is like, no, I know that you're good on service. You're always here. You're always doing what you need to do. And so to me, it feels so natural to be a part of a community that's giving. I give of my time. I have a few free clients that I give sessions to. I try not to open myself up too much for that, just because, again, my time is valuable. I also give birthday sessions for free at the spiritual center that I go to. And then as I talked to you about, my big vision is to really get to a point where every day I can wake up, have my tea, do my spiritual practice, and sit down and using my business model, pick whether it's a nonprofit or a profit or a person or an event or something that calls to my heart. I want to donate $1,000 a day to, and that's on top of 10%. Right? I want to give 10% of my income for my business back out into the community, and I really want to be able to honor that I want to give. And there's all these things that I'm passionate about that I can't do stuff for. I can't be everything. I would love to. I would love to be able to do all the stuff that I'm passionate about. But I am also a mom and a friend and a musician and a wife and all these other things. And so for me, the money part is important because it allows that flow. Also, for me, giving back is in the choices that I make as a consumer. So I've been a very avid boycotter for about 10 to 12 years. And the obvious ones, Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmart, are the ones on the top of my list. The hardest one, I'll be honest, has been Kraft. I've been boycotting Kraft for about 7 or 8 years because they're the largest food manufacturing company on the planet. And that is really, really difficult because they own everything. They have Snapple and they're Louis Rich and they're Nabisco and they're like, I mean, it's so many different things, and it's really, but to me, that's giving back because I'm giving my money to local communities, to local economies, maybe not always to local, but at least to companies that have more care about the planet, have better business practices, maybe have a triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit rather than just profit. And so I think
I like that. People, planet, and profit. I like that.
It's becoming more and more popular. You'll see a lot of businesses nowadays say that they have a triple bottom line, and they are showing that they care about all three. People, every business decision is going to affect all three, whether you admit it to yourself or not. So you might as well admit it to yourself and try to make those choices that are going to be in alignment with your values. And so I know I'm rambling a little bit, but this is just giving back. I think, look at nature. Every tree that falls is giving back to its local ecology. Everything is recycled back into the community. Nothing's left out. And so I think the more that we can plug back into that model, the model that has been left for us everywhere, for us to see with our eyes, I think the more healing that will happen for our systems and for our planet.
So would you say the big why is more about basically being united overall with that, kind of like you say, even if you're not in business, that triple bottom line, because even if you work a job, so the profit. So, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what would you say out of all of that would be your big why?
That's a great question. I'd say, you could be a total jerk and check out and not care and just do whatever you want. But I believe that we are connected. Like, no matter how much we try to pretend it, that we are connected. And so I'd say the biggest why for me is somewhat selfish, that my heart craves it. That if I don't listen to that part of me that is screaming for unity, that is screaming for peace, that is screaming for cooperation rather than control, then I'm not honoring a part of me, and then a part of me kind of gets shut off, and then I can't express the full of me. And so, yes, it's for the whole planet, and yes, it's so our grandchildren's grandchildren can have a place to live. But in the end, it's so that when I am by myself in the dark nights of the soul, that I can know that I've done my best, because there's something in me that wants to do that.
Awesome. Okay, so you were talking a little bit about trying to support your local, those kind of projects. So basically, in that sense, you give back. About that, because I feel that there could be a great connection between people who run for-profit businesses and those who are taking on more charity type of work, and are not getting huge income from that type of giving back work. So how do you feel that
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit here.
for when you're trying to make a point, you need to say it a couple times in different ways for different people to understand it?
Right, right. You broke up a little bit there, so I hope that I'll be able to answer your question. But this is actually, I'm used to being controversial, and I will give you a controversial answer. Um, I've been all about nonprofits and activism and signing petitions and, giving to charities and stuff for a long time. I've also been very much a rebel, and I've had a hard time receiving money for a lot of years. I had some family members that were very, very wealthy, and I don't want to be how they are. And so for a long time, that in itself was like, no, 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 keep the money away from me. And then, as I mentioned in our email, I did this webinar back in, I believe, February, and it was for what he was calling visionary entrepreneurs. And there was a gentleman named Ryan Eliason, and it was pretty powerful, and it was talking to people like yourself and myself that are interested in making the world better and recognize that we might have some inner stuff in the way as we're going through that process. And he said something very unique that sort of struck a chord with me. And what he said was that as long as we continue to believe that the things that make the world a better place, the things that benefit humans, that benefit animals, that benefit the environment, should be free, low cost, or only handled by nonprofits. He said what we're really doing is we're just putting our hands up and allowing large quantities of money to just flow freely to these large corporations that are devouring the earth and doing things that we don't want to do. And that really spoke to me. And so the last 6 months or so, just letting that sink in and trickle in and go, you know what? That's part of our empowerment, is being willing to receive money for what we do and then turning right around and not being like those people and using that money to participate in the benefit of the planet. Because, as much as my little hippie inside wants to resist it, right now on the planet, money is power. It sucks, it blows, I can bitch about it all I want, but the truth of the matter is that money makes things happen. And if I want to make things happen, then I need to be willing to be a conduit for money. And so while I will still support nonprofits, and while I'm still involved in my own nonprofits, they are dear to my heart, and I think that the people who work in them, for the most part, like any industry, there's always the bad eggs, but I'd say for the most part, people in the nonprofit industry have very good intentions. And if we're going to take this to the next level, we need to take our piece of the pie. So that's kind of where I feel nonprofits and profits can really cooperate. And part of this shift of mindset that we need to have as a society is that money needs to be involved in the good stuff, in the service stuff, in the, in health, in wellness, in mental health, in all of these areas that don't have money, and then all this other stuff gets money all the time. That's because most of us go, oh, I'll do it for free because it's good for her. So I think that whether that was put in the system on purpose, conspiracy theorists may say, oh, well, that was put in there so we can all be powerless, whatever. I don't care how it was put in there. What I know is we can do something different. And so for my part, not just receiving money and hoarding it, but my goal is to be a conduit for large quantities of money to continue to move through me, and that I can channel that into the areas that I think will benefit the planet.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, to me, that wasn't very controversial, but I think we're kind of like-minded in that, so perhaps I'm a little controversial myself. If that's the case, then so be it. Awesome. So I am going to wrap this up because I don't want to hold too much of your time. I want to make sure you get back to being a wife and a mother.
I even got to be a musician today. I sang at my spiritual center this morning. That's why I'm all dolled up.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. And that's definitely a good feeling. Yeah. It's definitely a good feeling.
Yes.
So, what I call go ahead and claim it.
Claim it.
Anybody who encounters me with an actionable piece of advice. And since you are my special guest, I would love for you to bestow that upon everybody. So what's one actionable piece of advice that you can give someone who wants to be the change? You know, and it doesn't have to be in an atypical way. You know, it can be very in a nonconformist type of way. So what is your one actionable piece of advice?
You know, it's funny, as you were saying that, the first thing that came up is own it. You know, own it without apology. If there's something in you, that nagging tapping on your shoulder saying, oh gosh, wouldn't it be cool to do that? Oh gosh, wouldn't it be cool to do that? And it's something that would benefit you, your family, your community, and the planet, do it. Do whatever you have to do. And recognize that there is inner authorities in you that have been placed there that you don't have to listen to. And just because they're in there doesn't mean that it's true. And in my experience, our job isn't the how, it's the what. Once we become really, really clear about what our intention is, what we want to bring to the earth, what it is that our gift is, what it is that we're passionate about, something bigger than us, whether you call it God or spirit or, you know, science and quantum physics is proving the connection of all life anyway. Whatever you call it, something else bigger than us will figure out the how. Just like today, you and I are sitting here chatting. You know, this to me is just another one of those, the universe going, oh, here, you wanted to know how to get in touch with more awesome people? Check this out. You know, and if you would have asked me 3 days ago how this was going to happen, I wouldn't have known. But I knew the what, and I set that intention, and something bigger than us figures out the how. Because we can get really bogged down. Oh, no, but, you know, that idea, that spark, and oh, but it's so hard because I'd have to do that, and I don't know about that, and I don't know how to do that, and I don't have enough money to do that. And that's where we get stuck, and then we don't get it. So they don't focus on the how. Just get really clear on the what. Get excited about it. Get that passion going inside of you. And I guarantee you'll get a Facebook message. You'll get a phone call. You know, somebody will say, hey, you want to go to such and such, and you'll meet somebody. Something will happen to show you that it's yours. And so just believe in yourself enough to take those steps.
Awesome, awesome. To me, that's one of my favorite pieces of advice. And probably because it's very, very near and dear to my heart. I know last year my word for the year was confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And is a huge part of that, of confidence. And I feel as though when you're confident, you can be the change. So believe in yourself.
Yes.
I think that's a huge and an amazing, and it's so simple, such a simple concept, but we make it so complicated. So,
well, we've got so many voices in our head telling us that we shouldn't do it, that it would be hard. You know, sometimes we even have managed to practice surrounding ourselves with people that will remind us of how hard it is and how we can't do it. And so, you know, and yet if we don't do it, some part of us will die. Some part of us will be sad. Some part of us will shut down if we don't honor that.
You cut off at the end there, so I guess that was the universe really telling us we need to leave it at believe in yourself. So, Starr, again, I thank you so much for your time. Seriously, you were what I kind of consider my ram in the bush. And I mean that in the most complimentive, I'm not even sure if that's the word, but we're going to roll with it, way. So everyone, again, thank you so much for tuning into this series. I'm setting an intention to be able to do this again next year over on the blog, and I'm hoping, my hope, my desire, my intention is that more people will be able to tune into this to experience what we can experience, even though we are literally miles away. You are over on, you know, in Portland, and I'm over here in New Jersey, yet here we are. You know, so imagine how we can continue to just build connections and inspire and empower each other through so many advances in technology, and also keeping true to ourselves as people, and just putting that out into the universe, even through video cam.
Just remind us that we're not alone, which is so important right now.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So again, Starr, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for having
And
me. It's been great.
awesome. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.